Mr. President, watch us.
Kenyans are preparing for a highly anticipated day, June 25th. The day marks the anniversary of the Gen Z-led protests that shook the nation last year. It was a moment that changed the way young people in Kenya were viewed, but also exposed the brutal force used by authorities. At least a dozen lives were lost during last year's protests, many of them young people who had poured into the streets to demand change. As this year's commemoration approaches, the country is tense.
I urge all Kenyans and the people of Nairobi to reject violence and criminal behavior as they take to the streets this coming week. I have spoken to the command of the police to assure peaceful demonstrators that they will be protected as they express their rights. And that must be done within the confines of the law.
Security agencies are already on high alert, from the National Police Service to the Kenya Defence Forces KDF. Several units have been activated ahead of what many believe could be another wave of mass action. Nairobi, Kisumu, Mombasa and Eldoret are some of the hotspots where intelligence sources say large gatherings may take place. This has triggered a series of emergency meetings across top government officers.
We want Ruto must go. That is the one, because he has failed to give us accountability.
President William Ruto is feeling the pressure. Sources from Statehouse indicate that he recently chaired a high-level closed-door meeting. Attendees reportedly included top military officials, heads of intelligence, and senior government advisors. The agenda was straightforward: how to avoid a repeat of last year's chaos and ensure that any gathering remains peaceful. Last year's protest caught the government off guard. What began as online outrage over the finance bill, high taxes and youth unemployment quickly turned into countrywide demonstrations. The government's attempt to silence dissent ended up intensifying public anger. By the time calm returned, images of young protesters being shot at had gone viral. The international community criticized the heavy-handed response, and human rights groups condemned the violence.
I assure the nation that the government has mobilized all resources at the nation's disposal to ensure that a situation of this nature will not recur again at whatever cost.
Now, 1 year later, the wounds are still fresh. Many of the victims have not received justice. Families are still grieving, and activists are pushing for accountability. June 25th has therefore become more than just a memorial. It's a political statement. It's a reminder that Kenya's youth are not backing down. Civil society groups are working closely with protest organizers to coordinate peaceful activities across the country. This includes candlelight vigils, memorial services, and peaceful marches. However, with tensions already building, there is a growing fear that things could spiral out of control if law enforcement responds aggressively again. In response, the government is trying to take a different approach this time round. Public messages from various leaders are urging calm. Police commanders have been instructed to avoid confrontation and only act when there is a real threat to public safety. The Ministry of Interior is reportedly preparing a set of guidelines to help officers manage the situation more responsibly.
I have one short message to President Ruto. President Ruto, the ultimate security and welfare of the people of Kenya rests in your hands. Please don't send us to the state where Haiti is.
Still, trust remains a major issue. Many young Kenyans have lost faith in state institutions. They believe the security agencies are a tool of oppressions rather than protectors of the people. Even though the government says it's working to ensure a peaceful environment, the memories of last year's violence are still raw. On social media, Gen Z leaders and influencers are mobilizing. Hashtags, posters and digital campaigns have started trending again, just like last year. This generation doesn't wait for politicians to speak on their behalf. They are vocal, organized and unafraid. Their message is clear. They want change and they want it now. Meanwhile, Ruto's administration is facing more than just the protest threat. The economy is still struggling. Prices of basic commodities remain high and the cost of living is unbearable for many. Unemployment continues to be a big problem, especially for the youth. These issues are adding fuel to the fire.
We must isolate crime from democratic expression and separate criminals from people exercising the freedom of expression and divergent opinion. I shall continue to lead a government that is fully committed to maintaining the integrity of our state, promoting the unity of our nation, and enhancing the peace and security of all citizens and their livelihoods.
Political observers believe that how the government handles the June 25th commemoration will either cool down the tension or escalate it. If the security forces act with restraint and allow peaceful gatherings, it might send a message that the government has learned from its past mistakes. But if the police respond with force, it could trigger another crisis. The streets may look calm for now, but underneath, the anger is simmering. For many young Kenyans, this day is more than just a tribute to the fallen. It's a demand for justice, for dignity, and for a voice in a system that has ignored them for long.
Today, Kenya experienced an unprecedented attack on its democracy, rule of law, and the integrity of its constitutional institutions. An otherwise legitimate expression of the fundamental rights and freedoms of assembly, demonstration, picketing, and petitioning of public authorities by a section of law-abiding citizens of the Republic of Kenya was infiltrated.
The country now watches with bated breath as June 25th draws near. Kenya stand at a crossroads. Either it learns from the bloodshed of last year or it repeats the same tragic cycle. All eyes are on the youths. All eyes are on the government. And all eyes are on what kind of Kenya will emerge after June 25th procession.
Mr. President, watch us.
Please don't send us the state where Haiti is. When you allow goons to come and disperse peaceful demonstrators on the streets, you are sending us to Haiti. Please stop that. You have the ability to stop. If you wanted to stop it, you will stop it even today. That's all I want to say.
I urge all Kenyans and the people of Nairobi to reject violence and criminal behavior as they take to the streets this coming week. I have spoken to the command of the police to assure peaceful demonstrators that they will be protected as they express their rights. And that must be done within the confines of the law. As enshrined in our constitutions, let the police do their job to protect life,